On the day that we honor those who have served this country in times of peace and war, we turn our focus to a generation that's about to be lost. Most World War II veterans are now in their 80s and their 90s, and they're dying at a rate of over 1,200 a day. But there is a Herculean effort by an organization known as Honor Flight DFW to get those who've never seen the World War II Memorial in person to Washington before it's too late.
I think Veterans Day is important. I've never seen so many thank you. Appreciate it.
At 90, retired Lieutenant Colonel Kenneth Brower's hands aren't nearly as steady as they once were when he was a young airman. The eyes today, not nearly as sharp, but I can tell you firsthand, his memory of World War II is crystal clear. As Kenneth tells me, it was the 8th of July, 1944, a month after the D-Day invasion. Then First Lieutenant Brower was flying with his crew in their B-26 bomber over France at 2:50 in the morning between Abbeville and Penz. The enemy found them.
We had, I'd say, 100 holes in the airplane.
The Marauder was crippled, but the news was worse for at least one of the crew.
The one that really got hurt was our engineer. He got a piece of flak went up through him, clear out. He died, in other words.
Seconds later came the command from the captain.
After he told us to bail out, I opened the bomb bay door. We had flames clear up to the cockpit. Naturally, I closed the door real quick, went out through the nose wheel. And while I was in the air coming down, I saw the plane blow up.
It's here, on this French hillside, where Kenneth Brower landed, all alone. And down the street, in this farmhouse, is where a French family hid Brower until France was liberated nearly 2 months later. Fast forward 66 years, the retired lieutenant colonel who lives in Fort Worth still treasures the Purple Hearts he earned and the Air Force Commendation Medal he received, but admits that before his time is up, he would like to see the World War II Memorial in Washington, D.C. Excited to see it? Tell me about your emotions. Here we are, 4 days away from
looking forward to it. Been looking forward for 2 years.
2 years, because that's how long the waiting list is for Honor Flight DFW, a nonprofit dedicated to taking aging veterans to Washington, D.C., all expenses paid, to see the World War II Memorial for their first and likely last time. Fortunately for Kenneth, his health outlasted the wait. So how many guys have you been able to catch up with this morning?
Oh, about 6, 7 to noon.
Kenneth Brower and 40 other North Texas WW2 vets are about to leave on a 48-hour odyssey to Washington, D.C. that will bring many of those brave men to tears. I was able to travel with Honor Flight to document their journey, and I hope you join me for what's going to be inspirational and an emotional tribute, to say the least. That's tonight on CBS 11 News at 10 o'clock. And we've talked about it over the recent weeks since I did this trip a couple of weeks ago. It's everything you can imagine and more for a group of veterans, as I said in the intro, that's about to be lost. There'll come a time very shortly when all we'll have is a history book instead of someone sitting in front of us.
My father-in-law was a Marine in World War II, and he took one of those honor flights, and it meant the world to him. So I'm watching these men from your story, and I see my father-in-law. It's very emotional watching that. I'm looking forward to your story at 10.
Earlier tonight, we introduced you to Kenneth Brower. He's a 90-year-old World War II veteran from Fort Worth, setting off on a trip to Washington to see the World War II Memorial for the very first time. He's one, in fact, of 40 North Texas World War II vets who flew with Honor Flight DFW. I got a chance to travel with them to document their journey, and it's safe to say that not one of these men realized just how powerful this thank you was going to be. They are 40 of the men who helped shape our world today.
There you go. Thank you for your service.
Gunners, pilots, infantrymen.
Hi, this is for you. You have a great flight.
Here's your blanket.
Thank you.
Hi, darling. Bye-bye, sugar.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is American Airlines flight number 1600.
Leaving DFW with a water cannon salute.
We are honoring our honor flight this morning.
Like 60-plus years ago, they take a seat on an airplane headed for something they've never seen in person. What they were not prepared for was what awaited them on landing at Reagan National Airport.
The first of what will be a lot of surprises for these guys right here in the airport when they land. Hundreds of passengers and volunteers all gathered right here at the gate to say thanks.
There were songs dedicated to every branch of the military, a special ceremony at the gate, completely unexpected and for some, completely overwhelming.
Well, I didn't think so many people cared.
At the World War II Memorial, taps played for the fallen. Those who made it through the war could hardly believe that they were finally here.
First impressions?
I'm speechless. I just don't know what to say.
Walking around the World War II, how many people who were just visitors would come up and thank you. That was amazing to me.
It's been over 6 decades, but memories of the war are still fresh.
Where were you? In Europe. Me too, bro. I made the grand tour.
All in the shadows of the 56 granite pillars, including the Texas pillar. 2 arches represent the Atlantic and the Pacific theaters. The Pacific is where Navy man Jim Riddle served.
It's an amazing sight. I never dreamed that this would be anything like it's turned out to be in person. I've seen pictures, but never anything like this.
One of the most moving parts of this memorial is the Freedom Wall. On this wall, 4,000 gold-colored stars. Every single star represents 100 lives that were lost by United States military members during World War II.
It took so long for them to get that thing done that I wanted to see it.
At Arlington National Cemetery, the men visited the grave of North Texan Audie Murphy, the most decorated soldier in World War II. And that foot swipe was for the North Texas veterans. It's an unspoken salute, a sign of respect from the Guard, watching over the tomb of the unknown soldier.
That's amazing, amazing memorial.
But it was in the final hours of this honor flight trip at the Iwo Jima Memorial that the whirlwind of thank yous, the decades of wondering why they survived and others did not, and reflections on the cost of war, finally caught up with these most deserving Americans. What's it meant for you to be here?
Those guys that all those stars represents, a lot of them are still over there. They are the real heroes.
Final touch, by the way, from Honor Flight was mail call. Letters from North Texas kids addressed to all the veterans on this trip were read on the flight home. So cool. Then they arrive at DFW, and nothing short of a hero's welcome here. For nonprofit Honor Flight DFW, the trip costs about $1,000 a veteran. They do that with donations. That's all they've got. They still have 300 World War II vets in North Texas on the waiting list. We have a link for you to Honor Flight on our website, cbsdfw.com. And with the whole waiting list thing at 300, most of these guys, obviously, they're in their 80s and their early 90s. Time is running short. That's the reality.
Do they do this based on age or based on when they signed up, or how do they do that?
Yes, yeah, there is a scenario set up. It's medically, you know, are they getting close? Can we get them there? A lot of these guys on this trip were in wheelchairs, but Honor Flight DFW tends to all those needs. It's pretty awesome.
That is wonderful. And there's so many people who volunteer their time and their services as well. That's great. Nice story, Doug.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks.
We call them the greatest generation, and we're losing them at a rate of 1,200 a day. Back on Veterans Day, I brought you the story of Honor Flight DFW. It's a charitable organization that gives World War II veterans a chance to fly to Washington, D.C. and visit the memorial that's built in their honor. Tonight, an update on one of those North Texas men on that trip, a former Navy gunner who made it to D.C. just in time.
There you go. Thank you for your service.
It was during this cheerful departure at DFW Airport.
Hi, this is for you. You have a great
Here's your
flight.
blanket.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
That we met Navy man Jim Riddle.
I love you.
And his daughter Carrie, who was overjoyed that her dad was taking this trip.
He's just the greatest man I've ever known him, and I just love him and I'm glad he's getting to do it.
Bye, darling.
Bye-bye, sir.
Jim Riddle boarded the honor flight to Washington on October 18th.
And this is American Airlines flight number 1600.
What an incredible trip we had. He seemed somewhat in shock that people would be thanking him.
Less than 3 months later, Jim Riddle was laid to rest in Fort Worth.
It's a stark reminder that we're running out of time to thank these vets. I mean, they're dying at a rate of over 1,000 a day, so time is precious to us.
Days after Jim Riddle was laid to rest, Kathy, his wife of 64 years, and his daughter Carrie shared with us what that trip meant to Jim.
it was one of the highlights, probably the highlight of his life.
When I spoke with Mr. Riddle at the World War II Memorial,
I've seen pictures, but never anything like this.
I didn't know he'd battled cancer for 13 years and nearly didn't make this trip. I didn't know that he shied away from talking about his days in the war, but I did know that he fought for our freedom and that he, like all the others, put his life on the line for the sake of ours. It was during our conversations this soft-spoken warrior began to open up about the impact that this trip was having on him.
It's an amazing sight. I never dreamed that this would be anything like it's turned out to be in person.
Kathy Riddle remembers a loving husband and father who never really got excited about much, which makes memories of Jim's late-night phone call from Washington even more special.
Oh, he was so excited. Just yakking on. Just so excited. Oh, the buses met us. We got to go here. We got to go there. We got to go to the wall. We got to go. Just, you know, he just wouldn't hush.
And the one person who saw that excitement firsthand was Tootie Giordano, Jim Riddle's guardian on that honor flight trip.
I've heard from many honor flight veterans and guardians with the passing of Mr. Riddle. And all have described Mr. Riddle as kind, sweet, nice, gentle, humble, and caring. He was all of that.
There were over 600 at his funeral. Does that tell you something?
For Kathy Riddle, who now wears Jim's wedding ring on her necklace, it is the heart-wrenching loss of a lifelong love. But for this country, it's the quiet loss of yet another of our bravest who, thanks to honor flight, was at least able to see our appreciation before it was too late. It was a super trip. If you'd like some more information on how you might get involved, help support Honor Flight. By the way, it costs about $1,000 a man to get them to D.C. You can go to our website, cbsdfw.com.
It is such a nice thing they do.
So well worth it.
And it was a very nice story. I'm glad you told it.
Thank you.
Because there's stories that need to be told.
They are.
Thank you, Doug.